Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Vic here, back with another Madden 20 video, and in today's episode, we're obviously going to be rebuilding the Minnesota Vikings, and they appear to only jump in the playoffs just to remove the Saints. I'm kidding, I've only seen this happen twice in the years, with the crazy Stephon Diggs catch, who is on the Bills now, and last year, who they eliminated in the wild card, and everyone's saying, oh, that's offensive pass interference. It doesn't matter now, I'm not going to argue about it. And also, the Vikings have appeared in 4 Super Bowls and lost all 4, so hopefully today we could change that. And let's start by looking at the team. To start off, we have Kirk Cousins here, who is an interesting player, I would say, because he's kind of on and off during seasons, and the Vikings did star development. We have also Dalvin Cook here and Adam Thielen, who are both underrated players in the NFL. Justin Jefferson, the star of this video. Ito Smith Jr. is, I think, how you pronounce the tight end's name. Overall, solid offensive line. Defensively, Danielle Hunter and Harrison Smith, both underrated superstar X factors as well, and we're looking to get this team their first Super Bowl win and make them appear in their 5th Super Bowl. So let's get into that by making some trades and removing some cap. So let's get into it. Here we are for the first trade. We have our second string left tackle, another left tackle, a defensive tackle, and a first round pick from the LA Chargers. Next, we have Anthony Harris, I believe it is, and Kirk Cousins for Dalvin Tomlinson, a first and a 7th round pick from the New York Giants. All those players just took up cap. Next, we have our kicker, our left tackle, and Kyle Rudolph for the first projected pick in the NFL draft from the Miami Dolphins. All these players just took up cap, and I needed an early first round pick. This is what the team looks like, as we're going to have Cam Newton rock out the starting position for the Minnesota Vikings. And if that actually happened in real life, I wouldn't be too surprised. Maybe I would, because Kirk Cousins is paid a lot, and I think they would take on a lot of dead cap if they did trade or cut him. I don't know for sure, though. We do have Jeff Gladney here as well. And apart from that, the specialists look good, and it is time to get into the midseason marks. Here we are at the midseason mark as we are coming off a win to the Washington Redskins. We are at the top of the division at 5-3 with Cam Newton as our quarterback, which is kind of interesting. We have Dalvin Cook here, who we do need to re-sign, so I'm going to give him a big contract, of course, because he is a superstar X-Factor halfback. He re-signs. I could have maybe got him easier in free agency for a lot cheaper, but that doesn't really matter because I just didn't even want to risk that. But no one else here. I'm too interested. Baby Eric Wilson. He's too much for what he wants, and everyone else here don't really have too much of an interest. This left guard, he's kind of cheap, but again, I still feel like I can get him cheaper in free agency. So apart from that, it is time to get into the playoffs. Here at the end of the 2019 season, coming off a loss to the Chicago Bears, we did not end up making the playoffs. Finishing at the bottom of the division, 5-11, we took a bit of a downfall, actually a huge downfall at season mark. So looking at the schedule, I think we were 5-3. I don't know what our record was, but all losses after our bye week, and even 3 losses before our bye week, which is pretty insane to me. So this may be why Vikings just do so terribly in simulation. I don't know. I don't really care either. But Cam Newton obviously didn't have the best season because it's Cam Newton right now. Not really the best player in the game. Dalvin Cook actually had a pretty good season, but just a little lackluster in touchdowns. Defensively, Eric Kendricks with the most tackles for a loss, 19 for Danielle Hunter. Sacks, 4 for Danielle Hunter. Interceptions, I think 3 for Brian Cole it was. Safeties, 0. Defensive touchdowns, 0. So apart from that, it is time to get into the offseason. We need to make some big moves in free agency. Here we are in the offseason as the Cowboys beat the Texans in Super Bowl 54, 21-7. As we have players to resign, such as Dalvin Tomlinson here. Dalvin Tomlinson is, he's actually a lot cheaper than I thought he was going to be. So yeah, that works. And he resigns. And everyone else here, I don't really have an interest for. Just looking over everybody, and I don't really see anybody. So apart from that, we're going to look into the team to see if there's any development upgrades. After the Super Bowl, there usually is development upgrades. From what I can see, there isn't any, as our tight end just has star development, and everyone else, I don't see one except this outside linebacker, the right outside linebacker. And apart from that, I guess it would be time to get into free agency, so let's get into it. Here we are after free agency, as we don't have Cam Newton anymore, obviously, and everyone else here, nothing really too big, I would say, other than Mike Hilton and a punter and a kicker. So apart from that, it is time to get into the draft. Here we are in the draft as we draft an outside linebacker, Dwayne Henderson, I believe it is. I probably butchered that really, really badly. Next, we have our new QB, Charles McPherson. Here, 75 overall, hidden development, ranked number 3 in the class. And this is what the team looks like after the draft, as Charles McPherson is here as our starting QB. Hopefully, even if he's a star development, I would be okay with that. But obviously, hopefully, we would want a better than star development as our franchise QB. But apart from that, there's nothing really else here that I got in the draft other than maybe some O-line that didn't have good developments. But apart from that, it's time to get to the midseason mark. Here we are at the midseason mark as we are coming off a win to the Atlanta Falcons 24-21, and we are third in the division as we are 2-5-1 above the Detroit Lions. And we have some contracts to get into, such as Brian O'Neill. I don't think I have an interest. Holton Hill, I don't really have an interest either for that. So apart from that, I don't have any interest in any players, so it's time to get into the playoffs. Here we are in the playoffs, coming off a win to the Carolina Panthers as we did not make the playoffs, finishing 8-7-1, almost in the playoffs behind the Chicago Bears, as Charles McPherson actually had a better season than I thought he would. We had the 3rd best offense and the 8th best defense, so that doesn't really make too much sense how we didn't make the playoffs. But Charles McPherson had a better season than I thought he would. Dalvin Cook had a lot of yards. Still wish he had more touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had a good season. Defensively, Mike Hilton had the most tackles for a loss. Goes to 11 for Mike Hilton. Most sacks, 4.5 for Danielle Hunter. Interceptions, 5 for Eric Kendricks. Safeties is 1 for Michael Pierce. And touchdowns is 0. So, apart from that, I would say it's time to get into the offseason. Here we are in the offseason as the Browns lose the Super Bowl to the Chicago Bears 21-24, and there's no one here that I want, so we're just going to look over the team to see if there's any development upgrades. From what I can see, Charles McPherson here has superstar development with leapfrog and spin cycle, so not really the best development upgrades for our quarterback. He has 84 speed, so that makes sense. But overall, pretty solid stats. Everything else looks pretty good. And he apparently had that because he didn't get upgraded. So he's apparently had superstar development this entire time, which I am okay with. And everything else here... I'm yawning. Sorry, I'm pretty tired right now. Everything else here, I can't really tell a difference. And apart from that, I guess it would be time to get into free agency. Here we are after free agency as we have David Bakhtiari, Ryan Ramczyk, and Orlando Brown Jr., who I moved into right guard instead of right tackle. And defensively, we got Myles Garrett, and we got Jamal Adams as well. So pretty big pickups on the team. And then I don't think we need too much, but apart from that, it is time to get into the draft. And here we are after the draft as we did pick up a better left guard, I believe. And defensively, not too much other than like depth players, which isn't really a big deal. So, yeah. Apart from that, it is time to get into the midseason mark. Here we are at the midseason mark as we're coming off a win to the Green Bay Packers, and we are on our bye week as we have players to re-sign such as Michael Pierce and Harrison Smith. We're going to start out with Michael Pierce, of course, and he wants more money, more salary, and more bonus. Harrison Smith is here. I don't know if I want to keep him around. It's only a 1-year deal, and I will keep that just because it's a 1-year deal and we're about to go into the final year. He still wants more money. Troy Dye is here. He shouldn't be here. I need to change that contract. And everyone else here looks pretty good to me. And yeah, I don't even care about looking in the records. That doesn't even matter. So apart from that, it's time to get into the playoffs. Here we are in the playoffs as we didn't even make it once again, which sucks, as we finish 7-8. I know I didn't look at the midseason mark ratings, but sucks pretty badly. And looking at it, we were a bunch of wins and then went on a huge losing streak. Okay, seems like what the Vikings do, not every year, but every year in Madden simulation. How about that? Because that's what happened to us in the first season. And Charles McPherson had a worse season than he did his rookie season. And we didn't even do that good offensively and defensively. Charles McPherson, too many interceptions. Dalvin Cook had good amount of yards and amount of touchdowns. Felix Burnett was okay. Defensively, Eric Kendricks with the most tackles. Tackles for a loss. It goes to 17 for Myles Garrett. Sacks, 7.5 for Myles Garrett. Interceptions, 3 for Mike Hilton. And safeties is 0. And defensive touchdowns is 0. So hopefully we can pull something off in the final season. We need to pull something off. And apart from that, it is time to get into the offseason. Here we are in the offseason as the Buffalo Bills beat the Chicago Bears in the Super Bowl 21-16 as Michael Pierce is here. So we need to up the salary, which I'm going to do. And he wants to test out free agency. His tag is too much money than I would like. Harrison Smith is here. He wants more salary, so I'm going to give him that for one more year. I know he's an 80 overall. But apart from that, there's no one else here that I want in free agency. I'm going to be focusing on getting a defensive tackle. But looking into the team before we do that, everything looks pretty good on offense. Defensively, everything looks pretty good as well. So defensive tackle is my target in free agency, and I will see if I can do that. And I keep yawning, so sorry about that. Here we are after free agency, as obviously on the offense, we don't really have anything to change, as we did get Michael Pierce back and Carlton Davis. So, yeah, pretty, not big changes, but pretty average changes. So it's time to get into the draft. Here we are after the draft, as we just did pick up depth players and nothing really else because it doesn't really matter. And just had a bad cough there. I'm sorry about that, guys. But yeah, apart from that, it is time to get into the midseason mark. Obviously, as you can see, we are here at the midseason mark, and we are 7-0 in the final season. That's what I like to see, above the Green Bay Packers winning the division. Obviously, we have players to resign, and like every year in the final season, I don't need to resign any of these players, so I'm not going to, because I'm focusing on winning the Super Bowl. And apart from that, it is time to get into the playoffs. Here we are in the playoffs with the first round bye, coming off a win to the Detroit Lions in Week 17, as we finished 13-3, winning the division. Looking into the stats, Charles McPherson is not that good, but we had the 4th best offense and the 5th best defense, though Dalvin Cook had a great season, and Charles McPherson, again, didn't have the best season. Dalvin Cook, again, had a great season. Adam Thielen had a great season. And defensively, Eric Kendricks with the most tackles for a loss, goes to 12 for Myles Garrett. The most sacks, 9 for Myles Garrett. Most interceptions, 2 for Mike Hilton. And the most safeties, 1 for Danielle Hunter. And defensive touchdowns is 0. So apart from that, we're going to need to simulate this first round to see who we're going to be playing in the divisional round of the playoffs. And then I'm going to hop in from there, and we're going to be playing the New York Giants in the playoffs, who are 10-6. And I believe I'm going to hop into this one, so let's just get straight into this. And hopefully we can win this, as they have Saquon Barkley, Leonard Williams, and a rookie. Here we are in the playoffs and in the playoff game, 23-24 in the fourth quarter. We are losing now 29-24, but we are driving down the field, 3 minutes left. And I think I'm going to have to hop into this, so let's get into it. And here we are at the end of the game, 32-29 will be your final score, and that will end out this one. So here we are to play the Atlanta Falcons, as we did just beat the Giants 29-32, as you could see, but we are here to play the Falcons now. And in the Super Bowl, and I know you guys may be thinking, what happened to the Falcons game? I lost the clip to that. I'm very sorry, but we are here in the Super Bowl about to face the Cleveland Browns, as there's no development upgrades on offense, and defensively, I don't see any upgrades. But apart from that, you can... Oh, wait, no, you can't see that I beat the Falcons, but I did actually beat them. Sorry for losing the clip, but apart from that, it's time to get into this one with Baker Mayfield, who is apparently a superstar X Factor. Here we are in the Browns game. It is 21-17 as the Browns are up in the fourth quarter, and we just scored 24-21. It is now 24-24. Very, very tight game, so I think I'm going to have to hop into this one. And to start out, let's get into it. And here we are, 31-24 in the final seconds. The Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl and the Vikings receive another Super Bowl loss. I think this is the 5th time the Vikings have appeared in the Super Bowl, and this is the 5th time they have lost in the Super Bowl. The Vikings have never won a Super Bowl, so it's time to see who the MVP was. The MVP was Todd Davis, 4 tackles, 0 sacks, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Very good middle linebacker. I did throw one of those interceptions. That is my fault. But we did end up losing the Super Bowl, and I think this is one of my first rebuilds where I actually lost the Super Bowl. I think I've always won the Super Bowl every time I made it, except this rebuild. And that's pretty ironic how the Vikings have never won a Super Bowl, but appeared in 4 and never won one, but we just now made that 5. So that's kind of interesting, but we still have one more season to go, I believe. Wait, no, we actually don't. I feel stupid now. We don't have one. But, yeah, apart from that, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video to say, and I'm going to be doing a Madden 20 franchise series, I believe, on the Titans or the Jaguars. Right now, there's a poll on Instagram to which one I should do, so be expecting that soon, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.